So after this weekend, Borderlands has a horrible Rotten Tomatoes score of 9%. Everyone is bashing this movie, and it made no money at the box office. But ultimately, what did I think of this movie? Did I like it? Did I hate it? Did I just think it was kind of meh? Well, stick around and let's talk about it. A ragtag team of misfits embark on a mission to save a missing girl who holds the key to unimaginable power. The film stars Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Jamie Lee Curtis, Edgar Ramírez, and Ariana Greenblatt, and was directed by Eli Roth, and he's done films like Thanksgiving, Knock Knock, The Green Inferno, and Cabin Fever. Borderlands, when I saw the trailer for this, I honestly thought, nah, I don't think this is going to be for me. It seems like it's going to be a lot of comedy. It doesn't seem like it's going to be my thing. I knew it was based on a game, but I've never played the game before. I don't know the characters, and I know a big criticism for this movie is the fact of the casting apparently doesn't match up with the characters whatsoever. Especially, I've heard Kevin Hart really get ragged on his character. Now, with the fact of knowing all that going into this movie, I had very low expectations. I did see that the Rotten Tomatoes score at the time when I did go see the movie, I think it was about 3 or 4%. So going into this movie, I was thinking there's no way it's really that bad. I've watched a lot of B flick movies this year in which I can tell you right off the bat, those movies are absolutely much worse than this movie and just unwatchable. And I can say that this movie is not unwatchable. I can understand if you've played the games and you really have that passion towards the games and you really love the characters and you look at this movie and you say, yeah, this is crap. I don't enjoy it. The movie starts off and it narrates a race of people who have this advanced tech, these weapons of mass destruction. They have taken these weapons and they have hid them into a vault on a planet called Pandora. We flash forward to Kevin Hart. He is rescuing this girl named Tina. He shoots his way out of this ship. They take another ship and they crash land on a planet called Pandora. We have Cate Blanchett's character who is a bounty hunter, and she has this guy named Atlas say to her, hey, I need you to go to the planet Pandora and find my daughter named Tina. So he pays her this money and she goes down to Pandora, and when she gets there, the planet itself, the world building, I actually did enjoy it. It's definitely a wasteland. It reminded me of Mad Max. I did like the way that the planet was designed. I like that it's apparently a tourist attraction in which people are riding on these buses and they're getting this tour guide of how they're going to go into this vault and apparently find these weapons of mass destruction, and there's someone that actually can open it with all these different keys and such, and we learn all that exposition. There's tons of gun action. The pacing here was very quick. It never was stalled or was really slow. Jack Black I thought was really funny. He had his line in here where he was like scanning. It had me laughing. And he also has a scene where he has to distract these misfits and they fire their machine guns at him and he craps out all the bullets, and I was like, this is pretty funny. At times I felt like he had a few lines that may seem a little bit annoying, but I really did like the way he was designed, and the popcorn bucket for this, the AMC release, is pretty cool as well. I just thought that he had some pretty decent humor. Now, from a negative standpoint, there are quite a bit of negatives here, and I'll start off with the rating itself. But again, I feel like the rating here, the fact that it is a PG-13 rating here, and the fact that it's an M-rated game, they shouldn't have gone that route, but obviously money talks and they went that route. But at the same time, if you're someone going into this movie and you know that it's a PG-13 rating, you know to expect no blood, no guts, no gore, nothing of the sort of ripping arms off or anything like that. You're not going to see that. But I think the gun action here is pretty good, but at the same time, when they're going through all these misfits, it's pretty easy. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of stakes. I never felt like any character was going to die or get hurt at any point. It felt like they were just going through the motions pretty easy. Some of the CGI in here is suspect at times, especially within the third act. There's another scene when they're in a sewer, and I was like, yeah, that definitely looks really bad. There's definitely noticeable green screen, and that's especially true when you see Tina, who has these little bombs she makes out of like teddy bears and stuffed bears and such, and when she's throwing them, you can tell that she's on a green screen. She's not lined up properly with the green screen, and it's very noticeable in that aspect. I wanted it to slow down a little bit more. I felt like the pacing, even though it was so quick and swift to get through, we really don't learn a lot about the characters. We do learn about Cate Blanchett a little bit. We dive into her life a little bit. Tina, we learn a little bit about as well, and then Claptrap is obviously there to be like the Olaf of the film and provide that humor, but I just never really felt like we really got inside the heads of these characters and really understood a lot about them, because we're just going through a lot of these action scenes, and the pacing, although it's trucking along and the script is very messy, there's a lot of things really going on. I think the villain here doesn't even get time to shine. He's barely in the film. He's in that last act of about the last 20 minutes, but again, he never really has a good enough time to really shine. We never see his dominance, and I felt like even though we see him within those last 15-20 minutes, he never really gets a big impact on the film. I think that's the biggest problem with this film, is the fact that even though it does have action, our characters, they're never in danger. You never feel like the misfits really have a big impact on the film as it's going from scene to scene. Yeah, they get out of trouble, but then they go to the next scene and they're quickly out of trouble as well, and you know that they're not going to die. So on that front, the film is a failure in that front. But I think if you're going into this film and you're an outsider like me who's never played the games, I think there's some fun action in here. There's a little bit of comedy. Again, it's very one-dimensional in the characters, and the script is messy at times, but I think it's not as bad as the rating is on Rotten Tomatoes. If you're someone that plays the games, I can completely understand why you're upset with this film. Obviously, there was some bad casting choices. Again, I haven't played the games, so I really can't refer to that, but that's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing, obviously, that people are really disappointed with the fact that it's PG-13 rated, and I think that's one thing you kind of have to understand, too, about this movie, is if you go into this movie and you're expecting greatness with a PG-13 movie, the fact that there's going to be no blood, guts, and gore, you know that offhand, and you kind of have to know that going into this movie. I said this when Tarot came out, the horror movie, the PG-13 horror movie that came out earlier this year. A lot of people really ragged hard on that movie, and you have to understand the audience. I think here that they were trying to make this a PG-13 rated movie to bring in more families and to bring in the younger teenagers to go check this out and maybe go ahead and play the games and get into them. But I think that plan just didn't work out for them. I think that people saw that Rotten Tomatoes score, they saw the trailers, they weren't really intrigued with the trailers, and they just gave this film a miss. And it's very obvious because it only made $8 million this weekend on a $100 million budget. Before I give my rating, this is not a pro or con, but I honestly expected Kevin Hart to be absolutely annoying in this film and have a ton of comedy and go absolutely ballistic about short jokes. And thankfully, we did not get that in this film, because that's kind of where I thought this film was going to be headed. I thought I was going to be very annoyed by the comedy in this film. And honestly, I wasn't. I had a good enough time with this film. I realized that it has a lot of flaws. And I'm sure some people are going to watch this review and go, "You're going to give it this score?" Well, yeah, because I didn't really think it was all that bad, and I've seen a lot worse movies this year. So as far as the score for this film, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I wouldn't say it's a great film, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm sure if I had more nostalgia towards the games, played them weekly, knew the characters, knew all the lore, maybe I'd be very upset by this movie. But honestly, from an outsider perspective, I don't think this movie is that bad, but it has plenty of flaws to go around and plenty of blame to go around, especially with the money that it's making. So what did you guys think about Borderlands? I know many of you are probably going to tell me in the comments that you hated this movie, but if you liked this movie or if you thought it was okay, let me know as well down in the comments. And if you could change anything about this movie, or if you can make changes to this movie to make it better, what would you have done if you had the power to do so? Definitely let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.